Morning, everyone, and welcome to the debrief. West Ham United 1, Bournemouth 0 last night. A touch of magic from Jarrod Bowen Karma. I always say for Callum Wilson, but he's got nothing to do with Bournemouth anymore. But remember that goal a few years ago when Wilson scored with his hand, and he said, "Oh, it's a touch of magic." Well, there you go. We've evened it up now, Bournemouth. Normally the morning after a win, I feel really happy, and I'm happy. I'm glad we're through. I'm pleased that we've won. I don't know. I don't have that usual high of a victory like I get, like on Saturday against Crystal Palace. I was buzzing after that win, and Sunday morning I was still buzzing. Today I'm not deflated, but I'm just not as excited as I normally am after a victory. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think first of all, there's the actual performance itself. It was a bit of a dire affair, and I think that's been keen. That's been generous to West Ham. And second of all, the fact we got Liverpool away in the next round of the Cup, I think that sucked a little bit of my enthusiasm out. That enthusiasm, I'm sure, will come back as we approach that game at Anfield. But for this morning, I don't know. It's just not really there. Possibly the fact that we've got Man City at the weekend. I never tend to look forward to these games. And I think last night, if anything, I was looking for reasons for optimism ahead of the Man City game. I think I've got more reasons to be worried for the Man City game than to be excited for it. But anyway, thank you to those who are joining me in live chat. It's a bit of an awkward one, 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning, but thank you to those who have stuck with me. I'll be live at 9 a.m. after every single game. So Sunday morning will be the next one. Then we've got a break because of the international period already. 3 league games, then an international break. Not keen on that one. Anyway, let's see what some of you are saying in the live chat. Infinitely said, performance last night reminded him of Moyes' performances from last season, and he was disappointed. Thought we'd just seen some progress from long ball, low block to Debo was a concern. Adrian says, if we're seeing what Loptegui wants to do coming into fruition, I'm very concerned. Lorna says, morning guys, was a handball, didn't see an angle. Yeah, the first few replays immediately after the goal was inconclusive, but there was an angle from behind the goal when it comes in slow motion. I think it's quite clear it strikes him in the arm. However, to defend Jarrod Bowen, he doesn't do anything wrong. He's not cheating. He's not intending to use his arm. His arm's tucked into his body, and it strikes him there and goes in. And it's unlucky for Bournemouth, fortunate for West Ham. It's not like he's used his arm to try to gain an advantage or anything like that. So I don't think he's cheated. I think it's just one of these things that happen in football, really. Jack was disappointed, said we're all excited for the Cup and seeing the new players playing, but we got was a flashback to David Moyes. Harrogate says, for anybody that's unsure why we're getting rid of Ward-Prowse, that's why. Slows the play down, constant back passes, and we only improve creatively when Paqueta got on the pitch. Liam says Ward-Prowse has to go. Didn't really offer us anything. Beef said, relatively calm. And we'll see the style improve as opposed to get more comfortable with the instructions. We all said give him time. This is what I was expecting. And we got the win. Barry said once again, Soucek had the worst game. He has one good game and everyone thinks he's our best player, and Soufal was terrible. I don't think many people think Soucek was our best player, in fairness. I think people were... You've got to judge games on as and when you see them. And I think, the first game, I stand by. I think Soucek was our biggest goal threat. Got the goal against Crystal Palace. However, wasn't our best player in either game for me. But he was pivotal to the way that Loptegui played in both of those. Last night, not so much the case. I think last night was a reminder of why a lot of fans wanted to see Soucek removed from the starting 11. And I think if Lopetegui is going to pin everything on Soucek, I think that's a bold decision and possibly an incorrect one. When someone just said, Beefy just said we need to be calm and patient. I think a lot of people are. I'm quite calm and patient. I keep reiterating. I'm not going to get carried away one way or another. We could have won 4-0 last night, and I would have applauded the victory and praised the tactics and performances. However, it wouldn't change my thinking in regards to Loptegui, thinking, oh, this is the right man for the job. I wouldn't have been swayed. So I'm not going to be swayed either way just by one game. I need a lot of games before I make my mind up with Loptegui. I have my pre-West Ham opinion of him, and I'm willing for that to be altered. I've tried to clean sheet it, just judge him on West Ham, not what he did at Wolves. But if we are going to be calm and give him time, I think the inclusion of Soucek week in, week out, and playing 90 minutes week in, week out, I think that is going to test people's patience. I think if last night we seen even Ward-Prowse next to Alvarez, and then we've seen Somerville, Paqueta, or Kudus, Bowen, I think people could say, "All right, this is a step in the right direction. It's closer to what I personally want to see as a West Ham fan." Now we're going to have teething problems, but let's give this time. But I think because Soucek started and played 90 minutes, I think it triggers a lot of people. I think it makes people frustrated and say, "Hang on a minute, I was wanting to see change. This ain't change. This is Paella, David Moyes." So that's my opinion anyway in regards to people's patience and the inclusion of Thomas Soucek. Infinitely thought Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, and Fabianski were the best performers. Spoiler player rated. Yeah, I thought those three were too. And I put Alvarez in there. I think there was 4 players I thought were good. Tommy said, "Don't understand why Soucek is our main player from what we've seen. He's playing the whole game and not really doing much." But I said Soucek's meant to be a target man. Got 1 penalty, missed 3 open chances. He's not good in the ball. And Soucek passes the ball back well too much. He also got a goal. I think you've got to be fair. He's got the goal as well. Happy Hammer, it's Happy Hammerette, isn't it? But Happy Hammer says, "I haven't been impressed by our new manager." Well, saying Liverpool away, typical. Jack says, "Fulkrug has been concerned as well. I think he's a good player, but historically we've only ever seen threatening with Antonio in these last few games. I haven't seen anything different." I don't think we've been threatening with Antonio though, personally. Dick says he's not too keen on Fulkrug either. Craig's just seen a draw and isn't too keen on that one. Northside said, "Shout out to Kadua." Now, I can't recall how you pronounce Kadua, but he said he's pivotal to Wickham winning against a championship side yesterday, and now to play Aston Villa. I've seen Wickham fans praising Kadua, but the Premier League have got their video up, how to pronounce every player, and it's broken down into sections, so you don't need to go through it all looking for your players. But West Ham ones come up. Paqueta, not Paqueta, Paqueta. Years I've put up with this. Years people have said, "Oh, you're saying it wrong because my wife is Portuguese, because my dog is from Brazil, because I once visited Rio de Janeiro. I opened up a Betway account and had money on Paqueta to get an AL card, so I knew how to pronounce it, and it's Paqueta." And it's not just those people. It's the stadium announcer who says Paqueta. Paqueta's in the video saying Lucas Paqueta. Thank you. Thank you very much. I now have definitive proof I have been correct all this time. Anyway, not only that, Guilherme is there saying Guilherme. Loptegui says Lopetegui. Aguerd says Aguerd. But Kadua said something. I can't even remember what he said, but it wasn't Kadua. So out of all the names I've been pronouncing wrong badly, it's that one. Fulkrug was Fulkrug. Soucek was Soucek. I'm slightly wrong, and so was Soufal. Say Soufal, and he was a bit more Kofal. So I've been saying the Czech boys wrong, but I think everybody has. And I'm just going to stick with Soufal and Soucek, I'm afraid. I'm not changing that one. But Kadua was the one I listened to and thought, "Oh, hang on a minute, let me rewind that one," because that was not what I thought his name was. Anyway, he was good. Infinitely says Somerville was constantly looking to be put through. It was a shame Paqueta was on the pitch at the same time. Barry says seeing Soucek and Soufal, or Soucek and Soufal, gets my back up. Every week my missus defends Soucek. As soon as I say you have him, it's now he's not good enough to get into my team, i.e. Arsenal. Okay, so Barry's missus is an Arsenal fan. Mark said, "I think Soucek has a place in the squad, but that's not next to Ward-Prowse." I agree with that, actually. I'm inclined to agree with that one. Mark says, Paqueta, depends on where you're from, so you choose. I'm not too bothered, by the way, Mark. It's just, the best example was the first time I did a video about Guilherme. There was 2 people, and they were within 2 minutes in the comment section. One commented, and 2 minutes later, someone else commented, and they both wrote how to pronounce Guilherme, and they were different, but they also both added their credentials. It's like, this is how you pronounce Guilherme because I want to say a fish in Portugal. This is how you pronounce Guilherme because my cousin once went to Brazil. This is how you pronounce Guilherme because I dance like a Brazilian in the kitchen. I don't know. They had their credentials, and it's a nice thing to do. But I just thought they were literally different pronunciations, 2 minutes apart. Anyway, what was I going to talk about? Yes, last night. So obviously the performance wasn't great. I don't feel too much happier about it, and I just feel a bit deflated despite us winning. However, onwards and upwards and all that. But I thought there was going to be a bit of a sub story last night. As soon as, approaching the game, I said it in the video yesterday, in the breakfast show yesterday, Patreon, I said, what we'll be telling is if Ward-Prowse and Aguerd are involved. Because last night is the kind of game where generally you'd rotate the team a little bit and you'd bring in some players that are part of your plans that haven't featured too much in the first 2 games of the season. And I think that was correct. Obviously, he brought in Todibo, he brought in Fulkrug and Somerville, brought in some new signings. He also intended to begin with Aaron Creswell. Obviously, James Ward-Prowse came in as well. Alvarez came back in for some important minutes under his belt. So I think that theory was proven correct. But what was telling, no Aguerd whatsoever, no Maxwell Cornet whatsoever, and no Danny Ings whatsoever. That's telling. That's Loptegui basically saying to those 3, leave, just go. Because if Loptegui put them in last night, it may give them a bit of encouragement. But Aguerd's mate was giving a little bit of this during the week, saying, hey, Aguerd's been frozen out. They've tried to get rid of him. They accepted a bid from Wolfsburg. Doesn't want to go to Wolfsburg. He rejected it. And since then, he's been frozen out at West Ham. I think that's true. I think the proof is there now. He's not 3 games into the season. He's not even been on the bench in any of the 3 games. So I think those claims have been proven. Aguerd has been frozen out at West Ham. Cornet last night put up a post on Instagram about moving on. Not really a surprise per se, but again, not even in the squad last night. And then Danny Ings for the first time not in the squad, which was interesting because he came on against Aston Villa, was in the squad against Crystal Palace, and then last night wasn't in the squad at all. And while I'm doing this, I'm just going to talk slowly because I'm just checking. Andy Irving was on the bench. I thought he was. So he hasn't been eliminated from the matchday squad yet. But I think it's quite telling that James Ward-Prowse played, and those 3 weren't even on the bench last night. I think that's Loptegui telling them, go on, out you go. Go find a new club. I'm torn by this, right? The reason I'm torn is because I was critical of David Moyes for doing similar things. You know, we all know the Alex Crowell part where he spoke about when he'd leave training, sit in the car on the car park and just release emotions, I think he said. That's not nice, right? There's been talks about their players basically saying, you know, if Moyes loves you, you're all right. But as soon as Moyes isn't too keen on you, it's difficult and you just get pushed to the side a little bit and you don't get too much attention from him. I used to criticize Moyes for that, and we've got the exact same thing happening here. There is a slight difference, which is we're in the summer transfer window and these are players we're looking to move on, whereas Moyes did it during the season with players that were at West Ham and were going to be part of the squad at West Ham for that season. So I think once the transfer window closes, we may need to see a different Loptegui and not one that just freezes players out the team, because hopefully, fingers crossed, we can move on Aguerd, Ings and Cornet. It's the best thing for the club. They don't have much of a future here anyway, but also if Loptegui ain't keen on them, I'd rather they went. And when I say cash in, we won't get much money for Cornet. We'll get a decent bit for Aguerd, hopefully, and we'll possibly have to rip up Danny Ings' contract. So financially, it's not going to make sense, all 3 of them. But just for this squad harmony, because Cornet's obviously had this bumpy road with David Moyes at West Ham, where he went off to get his own treatment, and that didn't go down well with the manager. Aguerd, the same, refusing to play or asking not to play for West Ham because he wanted to stay fit for the African Cup of Nations. However, Danny Ings hasn't done that. Danny Ings, as far as I'm concerned, has been a good professional at West Ham since coming in. He's worked hard. Whenever he's been played, he's given 100% on the pitch. There's been no stories, no talk of him doing anything untoward off the pitch or causing a nuisance. He's been nothing but 100% committed to West Ham since he arrived. And like I said, I take what Callum Marshall said. Maybe I read too much into it, but when he joined Huddersfield and he did his interview with the Huddersfield Post or whatever it was, and he said about in training, Ings was the one that looked after him. I like stuff like that. I have to be honest, I feel a bit sorry for Ings, actually, because he came in and was played in a system that was just never going to suit him. And it's not like we were buying a player from abroad where perhaps David Moyes didn't know much about. We were bringing in a guy that everybody knows needs two up front, but we didn't change our formation. We just brought him in and continued to play the same way. And Ings has spoken about it not suiting him, and he's not done that well. But I hope he gets his move. I hope he goes, because I don't like things turning ugly at the football club. And I think this is a situation now where it could become ugly if come Saturday morning, Aguerd, Cornet and Dan Ings are still at West Ham. It gets a little bit tricky for Loptegui, and he's going to have to decide whether to integrate them back into the first team quick, or does he continue to leave them out? Then come January, those players that aren't worth much money and don't have much clubs after them are going to have even less clubs after them, and they'll be worth next to nothing at all. Anyway, right, let's see what you're all saying in the live chat. Coco says, as brilliant as he is, Paqueta does too much showboating and doesn't release the ball quick enough. Always looking for the clever pass when the obvious one is often best. I'm not too critical of him looking for the clever one, because he's the only one that does it. When he came on, I just watched Ward-Prowse, Soucek and Alvarez play it safe for 60 minutes. Even Somerville and Bowen, there was little to no creativity. Our most creative player in the hour mark before Paqueta took to the pitch was possibly Aaron Wan-Bissaka trying to make runs. So when someone comes on and starts trying a difficult ball, I'm all for it. And our goal, Paqueta did a clever pass. He flicked it over the heads of a couple of Bournemouth players to Jared Bowen in close proximity to him. Couldn't get the ball to him in any other way other than going over the top of those Bournemouth players. So he scooped it over. Bowen brings it down, gives it to Kudus, hits Bowen and goes in the back of the net. So Paqueta's clever pass, in my opinion, led to our only goal last night. And prior to him coming onto the pitch, we had nothing. Dan said we need some creativity and some pace up top to stretch teams and create space for others in behind. Kerry says in the last two games we've been under pressure when Loptegui changed the game with subs to gain control. We need clean sheets and good subs, not what we're seeing with David Moyes. Harrogate Hammer is asking if Todibo went off injured. I think he did. In the first half, towards the end of the first half, he was either absolutely knackered or injured. One of the two. He was not moving comfortably, so I'm assuming he picked up a knock. Right. More comments in the live chat in just a second. Before we do, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe. You need to Hammer's chat as well. Thank you very much for joining me. Tomorrow night, Friday night, 9 p.m, we are live with our Deadline Day show. We've got a former West Ham United boss joining us for a chat about West Ham's business. We're looking forward to it, so I hope you can join us on Friday evening. Mark says Sufal keeps running past Bowen, which results in Bowen holding back and covering defensively. Results in a talented forward at the back and a non-talented forward on the wing. Infinitely said Fulkrug won't work in last night's system if that's what we're going to do. Lucanio says it was just as bad as whatever David Moyes has dished up. Barry's asking who Irving is. We've still not seen an announcement. Aldo Davino saying the reason I don't feel high is because I know it's over in the next round. There is an element of that, but when the final whistle went before we drew Liverpool, I didn't have that buzz. I had relief. I was like, oh, thank God we're through. We've scraped that. But there wasn't that. I don't know. It was just a bit of a weird feeling for me last night. Turpin says it's all over the place. Don't see the plan. And maybe it's a bit too early. Yorkshire thinks Ings, Aguerd and Cornet will be gone. Darren says people will soon realise Loptegui is just a much better Moyes. He's not going to give us this free-flowing football we crave. Granted, was first time last night a lot played together, need to gel. Yeah, I'm still... He wasn't my first choice. Like I said, I can't pretend I've always been Loptegui. Doing videos is... good things and bad things about it. There's always a historical archive of everything you've said. If you were to go back to May when we were being linked to Loptegui and we hadn't got him yet. It was quite clear I didn't want Loptegui. I'm not going to sit here now and be, oh yeah, that's the guy I've always wanted. When 3 months ago it was quite clear he's a guy I didn't want. However, he's here, and I hope he's a success. But yeah, I've never been convinced we were going to see this attacking manager. He's quite a pragmatic manager, but he can still be a success playing like that. It's just, we'll wait and see. We will. That's all we can do. We'll just wait and see. Steve said when J-Lo took over, it'll take time, and I still feel that, but I must admit there's a bit of concern so far. Anthony says all teams freeze out players when they're no longer needed. The issue is whether and how it's communicated with the players. Moyes went silent on players outside his core 14, which seems different with Loptegui. I'm not sure, Anthony. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Aguerd was... I think it's fair to say, towards the end of David Moyes' tenure, Aguerd was tipped to leave West Ham in January transfer window. It was widely reported that Aguerd was looking to get out of West Ham. I think that's a fair observation. Yeah, not once did we have what we've got now with Aguerd. We've now got Aguerd's friend coming out saying he's been frozen out of West Ham. That didn't happen under David Moyes. I'm not trying to depict a side here between Moyes and Loptegui. It's not really a case of whose side are you on. It's observing situations. And I kind of disagree with what you're saying. I get what you're saying, that players get frozen out all the time. I agree with that. But I just feel like I was critical of Moyes for doing it with a few of the players. I feel like I almost have to continue that with Loptegui. But because we're in the summer transfer window, I'm going to let it slide. And if all 3 players leave before tomorrow night, then fine, we don't have an issue. However, if they're all here in September, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's the same with Kurt Zouma, by the way. Zouma had his medical yesterday, and there's still no update. Hopefully, he's going to sign for that Saudi team. But if not, again, West Ham have another big decision to make. Do we bring him back and integrate him into the first team, or do we just rip up his contract and give him money to go away? It's a difficult one. I feel like we've been quite firm with Zouma and now Aguerd, which is you're gone. But the problem is, if you can't get them gone, come the 31st of August, the window's shut. You've got a bit of a problem there. And the Saudi window, in fairness, the Saudi window is open for a handful of days later. I think it's the 2nd. So it's that Tuesday or the 3rd, Wednesday. Tuesday, Thursday, the window in Saudi closes. So although the English one shuts on Friday, Aguerd can still sign for a Saudi club until the 3rd of... I'm sure it's the 3rd of September, but could be wrong. Lauren says we need patience with Loptegui. We've seen times where we've had more control in games. Will be interesting to see how we approach Man City. Moyes parking the bus at games like that was depressing. The usual suspect says 3 games in, we've got to give him a chance. Ben doesn't think Todibo was injured. He was awful, and that's why he was stuck. He was moving badly towards the end of the first half, though. He was, like I said, he was either broken or knackered. World says Loptegui might be happier with the last 2 games than you'd expect. What was the biggest problem in West Ham's second half of last season? We're conceding more goals than anyone outside the bottom 3. That's incredibly accurate. Jel says Kadua sounds like Kodja. Not that hard. I'm not saying it was difficult. I'm just saying I forgot. Liam says Todibo didn't play any pre-season with Nice, so hasn't played for 3 months. There you go. Anyway, right then, I'm going to get off here because I'm going to do a video with a Watford fan channel about Ogbonna. I'm looking forward to actually discussing Ogbonna joining Watford. I thought he'd retire, so it's quite pleasing to see him remain in the game. Also, 3rd round of the Carabao Cup, he's away to Man City, so that might be a bit of a difficult game for him. I'm still not over that cup dropping. It's still... keeping those 6 teams apart still feels incredibly necessary and unnecessary. And I'm just not buying this. It's to avoid fixture congestion. But it makes no sense. They've still got a game to play. If Arsenal played Liverpool, they'd have 1 game in the Carabao Cup to play. But They don't. Liverpool are playing West Ham. They've still got one game to play in the Carabao Cup third round. I don't get it. Avoid fixture congestion. It makes no sense. What is the games involving these teams 45 minutes long or something? No. It just I'm not having it. I'm still not convinced. And in fairness, there's people last night on the comment section of the watch along. There was a Villa fan saying, I don't get it. I don't get why we're being kept apart from the other 5 teams. And he's being honest as a Villa fan, saying it's a bit corrupt, that is, but I don't like it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, comment, subscribe, and Hammers Chat. We'll be back later today with our Man City preview, and then we'll be kicking off tomorrow night at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. tomorrow night. Come back and join us, because the former West Ham manager is on the show from the very start. So when we go live at 9, he will be there. The former manager will be there discussing all things West Ham in the transfer window. We've got some faces you'll recognise as well throughout the show. So hopefully you can join us, and we'll see you then.